Well, hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is only the second ScaleTrains museum quality locomotive made in their now almost 7+ year history. So I think we're going on 7 years. Anyway, let's not get off into a rant. This is the EMD SDL39. This is a SOO line patched SDL39, and we're gonna see what you get in the box. Starting next. So on the front you have lift here to see the difference and a little F like they put on locomotives to indicate forward. Operator's manual is pretty basic here. Trifold, goes over the functions, an introduction on the back. Gives you some history inside the box here. So if I start reading stuff off, you know, I'm not that smart. I'm just reading the history. Back to the actual item. Lift off a foam cover. And you have a plastic blister packaging, as they call it. Slide that out. Now, museum qualities come with the pin. And I'm going to pop the locomotive off. Finally remembered these little truck immobilizers. They just blend in perfectly, so you don't want to set that down without those out. This locomotive just seems to absorb all my light in here, so I've added additional light, and it's just like the gates of heaven right now in front of this and on this locomotive. Still on the screen, I know it's just absorbing everything, but we'll start off looking at the locomotive from the front here. Okay, we're just going to list off the stuff I know on the front here, and then we'll go over some other stuff. There's the accessory hoses that have silver tipped ends, snow plow with handrails there, coupler cut lever, MU receptacle. There's class lights that are tri-class, I believe, or tricolor class lights, LED, but we'll get in that. Headlight LED, horn and beacon light, firecracker antenna. On the nose there's a sand filler hatch. As we turn this way, you can see that the step has white safety markings on the bottom and top to indicate the bottom and top sill. SOO patched out on this, including this big patch back here with a faded number 5 and 8. It's all patched out back here. Bell mounted right there. Got cab windows. Look like they move back and forth because I see one is slightly open, but I don't like to press my luck with this stuff. Yep, they move. You can adjust the cab windows as necessary. Right, so that's the cab window. It does move. Blower housing right here. Dustbin hatch, exhaust, winterization hatch on the back. As you can see there, a nice see-through grating. One thing you may notice is the front and rear pilots tend to have this dip issue. So as you can see, this is not flat. This is at an angle going that way. And thanks to a modeler online, I did research this issue. You can install styrene on the front of the coupler box, and it will push everything back out to where it belongs when you do that. Another thing, while I was researching that, I ran across, and we'll check in testing. I don't have the ability to check actually because I have no switches active, but these spark on some switches, so you'll have to electrical tape them off. Same YouTube guy, very helpful. I appreciate his help. Has said you can electrical tape these off, and somebody even commented that you could paint these with something that doesn't conduct electricity. These on the trucks help the decoder recognize flange squeal when it's going around corners or going through turnouts. Barely noticeable and finely detailed are the lift rings. You see some here and even one on the winterization hatch. Those are probably the most finely detailed lift rings I've seen on a model. Handrails appear to be good. There's walkway safety tread on the model as well. And more of the same on the back. The MU hoses tucked behind the plow here, and ScaleTrains own metal couplers with a coupler cut lever and separately applied grabs all along the back, including the LED rear light as well. On this side you see mostly one thing sticking out to us layman folks, and that's the brake chain. These are crank style brake chains to crank down the brakes on the locomotive. Emergency shut off here, and there's an air dryer and some other details on the fuel tank. Another variation you'll see on this specific version is there are no drop steps on the ends, and then you get this bay window kind of cab appearance on that side, and on this side it is just a different type of window configuration. But also inside has standard EMD armrests and a cab interior. Lots of warning placarding along the side here. Jacking pads, radiator grills, and those lift rings we mentioned earlier. Okay, this is a ESU decoder in here, so you're going to have to hit F8 to start this up. We do have headlight, but we'll look at our lighting later. I just wanted to go through that. Bell. Bell sounds pretty good. Horn. On my NCE Pro cab, that just depends on how long you're hitting the button for. It's playable to a certain extent based on the length you're hitting the button for or letting the button stay on for. Couplers F3. F4 is dynamic brake when it's moving. We'll skip that one for now. F5 and 6 is some lighting features. 7's lighting features. We'll go over that in a separate segment. So F9 is drive hold. Basically you activate that, then you can ratchet up the prime mover sounds without it moving, and then releasing it will take the locomotive back to the speed you're already on. I showed you that handbrake. You can actually make that work with function 14. So there you have that, and there's a lot of other sounds, including engine compartment doors. We usually don't cover all the sounds. Alright, as far as lighting goes, this thing lights up like a Christmas tree. You can see the gauge lights on the dash inside, the ground light that helps the crew determine whether they're actually moving or not at night. It's right there, shining down onto the track. And you have classification lights and number board lights and walkway lights on the back. Okay, those ground lights are on both sides. There's F5, which changes the class lights from off, white, green, and red. I think I have that right, I'm colorblind. Then back off again. And you see right in the center of the nose there is a walkway light. Now I've turned on the strato light on F7. As you can see there, varying intensities from bright to medium to dull to bright to medium to dull. I believe you can see that there pretty well. You can turn on the reverse headlight here just by going into reverse. And again, tri-colored LED class lights on the back, depending on how many times you hit F5, but those correspond with the runs in the front at the same time. I did flip this around so you could see there's a walkway light over here as well. And I know people ask me a lot about color temperature. I am seeing slight variations in color temperature between the cab numbers, headlight, and walkway lights. This one seems a little more pure white, where the front one seemed a little more golden white, but pretty minor stuff. Alright, we got a new pull tester in town, so let's see how this works out. Accidentally shut down the locomotive here. This is a more accurate pull test than the previous version, but I don't know if you can see that, but we're basically pushing 40, 45 standard size HO scale freight cars. It looks like we just got over 3. It looks like it grabbed some traction there, which is about 45 freight cars. Checking weight here. The scale is not great for cameras, but you'll just have to trust me. 14 ounces. That's 398 grams. So that is your weight of this locomotive. Loco length coupler to coupler is 7 3/4 inches. Loco body by itself is about 7 3/8. Check coupler height here. Slightly low, very, very slightly low, if you want to count that as low. I just let you guys see and decide for yourself what's a big deal and what's not. Sometimes this does not want to sit properly. That one appears to be dead on. Maybe, again, a smidgen low. Alright, the last test really. Wheel sets and body clearance with this NMRA gauge. Let me turn that around there. All good there. Okay, we're going to use the AccuTrack here. Check speed at 1 speed step. I'm going to move this right to the front because I have a feeling it's going to go slow. So there's 1 dialed into the decoder. And we are underway here with the AccuTrack. 1 speed step. You can see it's going very, very smoothly at slow speed steps. Good speed control. And it's going to take a while to reach the other sensor in here, which means it's probably going to be less than a scale mile an hour by a good bit here, but we'll see. Should be getting a readout any second now. 0.7 miles an hour on 1 speed step. So very, very slow speed control. I'm looking at lurching and I'm not seeing any. You know, in all my testing, I think this is probably the slowest speed step without lurching for a locomotive with speed step 1, registering just 0.7. We're at now 2 and 3 speed steps. Definitely going to be completely smooth if it was smooth at 1. So that's 5. So very slow moving locomotive. We'll go in reverse here. 1 speed step. It does take a second to get going, but again, looking pretty smooth. I'm looking at it at eye level. It's looking pretty smooth at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now you gotta really crank this up to get brake squeal, but we can there's some brake squeal noise for you. That was my goal there. But, you know, it'll move pretty good. It'll definitely haul. It's moving and I'm running out of track here. And it has momentum figured in, so I don't want this to go launching off the end of my layout. Alright, capacitor built in, last a few seconds. You can see the gauges in there, pretty cool, and then it went out. But that's good for dirty track, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this review up. And I've already wrapped it up in editing mode, but I will say this is the only plastic version of the SDL39 created, so that in itself brings a lot of value to the model, and ScaleTrains bringing that to market for those modelers. Well, not quite ready for run-bys yet on the layout, but we are moving along. The series on Train World TV of doing how to build a layout is slowing me down a little bit because I'm working on certain scenes and areas further in advance than the rest of the layout, but since I can't do a run-by, very long one anyway, we'll just go round and round and let you see the locomotive one more time, and I'll give you my final thoughts quickly. ScaleTrains has set themselves apart from regular locomotives that are produced, and the price point does reflect that. You know, this locomotive is a higher price point than most of its size, but they've got the museum quality, which means an upgraded package, upgraded lighting features, including the inside control stand lights, the cab lights. The strato light, you know, is pretty commonly seen in locomotives, but the walkway lights are not. That's another feature. And the tri-class or tricolor class lights, I keep saying tri-class lights on both ends, are not really standardized on locomotives. So overall, pretty nice locomotive. Now it does have a couple shortcomings. I mentioned those earlier, and I don't hold back or hide things from you guys. There's a dipping issue, as you can see, with the trucks, or with the pilots, I mean, where you've got an angle down that can be fixed with a piece of styrene. I encourage you to search on YouTube ScaleTrains SDL39, or maybe even just SDL39. I think it's a guy by the name of Andy that has addressed fixes for that. And another issue is depending on speed and type of turnout, these can sometimes spark, which these are indicating to the decoder to make the flange squeal sound, which we weren't able to cover really. But those are two things that are kind of things to watch out for on the locomotive, and you can always block those off with electrical tape, pull them out, or somebody suggested putting some sort of rubberized paint on there to block them from sparking. But that's about it. Overall, still a net positive locomotive in my mind, but you make your own calls. I just give you all the information I can. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time right here on the channel. Take care.